Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner.
We don't remember the mundane, the ordinary, the routine, the boring. You have to do something that is fun, that is out of the ordinary, in order to have powerful memories that pull you back to that place. So don't just sit passively by. Create some memories. Live and create some memories. Life is a collection of memories. It's a terrible thing to grow old and not have any memories other than waking up in the morning and eating oatmeal every day. Well, if you eat oatmeal every day, nothing is going to be memorable about that. Maybe you ought to have your Belgian waffle and put some whipped cream and have some strawberries with it every now and then. And you'll remember what is out of the routine, what is out of your tradition, what's out of the ordinary. Those are the things that create powerful memories. Create some memories for yourself. The power of memory has the ability to be able to pull you out of a slump of where you are. You see, it is what you do out of the norm, out of the predictable, that becomes memorable to you. And the reason that I'm suggesting to you that you create powerful memories is because Satan cannot steal your memories. Satan cannot steal your memories. Why? Because your memories belong to you. They are your memories. They belong to you. They belong to you. Now, the prodigal son, he lost his money. He lost his friends, he lost his pride, he lost his confidence, he lost his home, he lost his food, but he did not lose his memory. He still had the power of memory in his life. And to ensure that Satan does not steal your memories, I want to encourage you to write your memories down so that your offspring will have a picture of the essence of who you are. Write your memories down of what makes you unique. Why do you think that the Jews had an entire sect called the scribes to simply record their history and the things that happened? But you see, Satan, he has to distract you and cause you to forget who you are in order to ever get you to sin and misbehave. He must get you to lose consciousness of who you are. I guarantee you that every time that a man sins, he is not thinking of the fact that I am a blood-bought, redeemed son of God. The devil makes them lose consciousness of that when he puts you off and has you to do freakish things. And he makes you see yourself then as a freak. And you lose the memory of the fact that you are a redeemed son of God. You don't think about the fact that you may be a deacon, that you may be a Sunday school teacher, that you may be a witness for Jesus Christ. He has to cause you to lose the memory of who you are temporarily in order to cause you to misbehave. It's virtually impossible to be consciously aware that I am the righteousness of God in Christ Jesus, and there you are doing wrong. So he puts that out of your mind temporarily and causes you to focus in on the pleasures of sin and not on the identity of who you are. What you do flows out of the character of who you are. How do you see yourself? How do you see yourself? Because that will determine what you do in your life. So Satan has to cause you to become distracted so that you forget who you are. Distraction leads to dislocation. Psst. Come over here. And it gets you out of the place of where you are. When you get out of place, somebody else takes your place. You get distracted first, and then you get dislocated secondly. When you're in the wrong environment because you're dislocated, you don't function right, try dislocating your shoulder. Try dislocating your leg and see how well that limb functions if it is dislocated. He gets you distracted and then dislocated and then deceived. He's a great deceiver to make you think you'll never get caught. That's why there is such insanity in sin, is that you can keep on doing it, and this will be the last time. He deceives you to think just one more time, just let me hit it one more time. How many times have you heard that? And it goes from distraction to dislocation to deception, ultimately to stage 4, which is destruction. If you get deceived and God never rescues you out of the deception of where you are, destruction is imminent. But thanks be unto God for the power of memory. Even when Will Cain was sitting in prison, he remembered his father's house, the God who had called him and had him preaching since he was 15 years old. The power of memory has a miracle magnet drawing you back to Father's house. The power of memory is a gift of God that links you back to your restoration. You can't be restored to something that you can't remember. You can't restore something to its original glory if you don't remember what the original glory looked like. The power of memory is the catalyst for repentance, because he knew what he used to have and now he sees what he has now, and it becomes a catalyst for repentance. You will be surprised if you create a powerful enough memory, it'll let those who have gotten away from it now want to come back to it. When people get out and start paying their own bills, then they remember how they left your lights on. Then they remember how they left the water running too long in your house when you were paying the bill. And then they see why you were saying eat all of your food, because now when you start buying your own groceries, you don't want to waste your food, and now you remembered how you wasted. It's the power of memory. It has the ability to be able to bring us back to certain things, and that's why we're talking about the power of memories, because you will only return to a place of pleasure. There's something that's called the pleasure principle, which simply says that if you do something and if it feels good, you will want to do it again. That's the pleasure principle. That's what gets people trapped in sinful behavior, because you enjoy the pleasures of sin. But here's the catch: for a season. Only for a season. Only for a season. It will only last a season. And so you got to be able to create powerful memories while you're in Father's house, in the secret place. In God's presence, the secret place of God ought to be a place of peace. It ought to be a place of comfort. It ought to be a place of joy. It ought to be a place of love. It should be a place of forgiveness. It should be a place of mercy. It should be a place of strength. It should be a place of faith for you. But you've got to stay there long enough to be able to get a memory of how God touched you and healed you, how he delivered you from the last situation that you were in, how once before when you were in a financial bind, how God brought you through that thing and you survived it. And that same God is alive and well now, and he's simply saying to us, come on, return. And that's why our prayer is, return us, O God, unto thee, and we will be restored. God, you do it. We have gotten so far off course that we need the power of God himself to turn us. We have lost our mind and passed out at the wheel. And the prayer now is, Lord, turn us back to thee, O God, and so that we might be restored. God, you restore us. Help us, God. It is the power of memory, of knowing that God is a good God, that he is faithful to his children, that he loves us. And so we have to get in the presence of God and stay there long enough, for anger to subside. Stay there long enough for your fear to begin to dissipate. Stay there long enough to start feeling the renewal and the refreshing of the Holy Spirit. Stay there long enough for your joy to come back. Stay there long enough for wisdom to come. Stay there long enough to be changed. But one of the greatest challenges that we face in our world today, here's what makes this different from the prodigal story in the scriptures, because this young man had been raised in his daddy's house, and he went out and lived in a far country, and he was feeding pigs. And so now he's in the pig pen and has a revelation, because he remembers how wonderful it was back in his daddy's house, and he realized now daddy wasn't as bad as I thought. And when he left home, in his arrogance, he says, Daddy, give me the portion of goods that comes to me. In his arrogance, in his immaturity, wanting everything to be given to him. Giving to you never matures you. saying, give me, give me, give me. But when he came back, he didn't come back making demands on his daddy saying, give me. His words changed. Instead of give me, they had switched to now, make me, make me, make me, make me. God, make me. Let me just tell you this. If you're in a bad position, if you're in a bad fix right now, don't ever stop while you're in that bad fix. That's not the place that you want to sit there and do nothing. Don't just sit there, do something. Because whenever you let something just sit, it goes bad. If you let fruit sit, it'll go bad. Bananas will rot if you let them sit. Tomatoes will rot if you let them sit. Grapes, strawberries will rot if you let them sit. Milk will spoil if you let it sit. Even water will go bad if you just let it sit. Bacteria will start forming in it. Flies will become attracted to it. And the next thing that you know, it becomes a breeding ground for disease. Just because it was sitting, what in the world is happening in your life when you sit waiting on things to happen for you? You go bad whenever you sit. We were designed to get up and move and hustle and make something happen. Don't die sitting there waiting on something to happen. You go bad when you sit. It's all right to sit long enough to get rested and refurbished and get your focus back, but don't sit too long, because the longer you sit, the badder you become. Something in your creativity and imagination begins to become wayward when you sit too long. So don't let them sit too long. Don't sit waiting on something to happen. You have to have something that begins to employ your creativity, your energy, your will, your intention in your own life. You've got to have something that moves you. So don't just sit there, do something. Don't just sit there, do something. The memories of this current generation that they have, one of the reasons that they have a hard time making a change in their life is because they have no memory of Father's house, because they weren't raised in the church. We've got a whole generation that is on the scene right now that has never been raised in the church. And so they don't know the God of the house because they've never been raised in the church. And so we need something new now to come back into an experience, because you can no more return to some place that you've never been any more than you can build a second story on a vacant lot. And so they're in a bad fix in their life, and they need a touch from God. That's why God has to turn us, because the generation that is on the scene now has not been raised in Father's house. They do not know the disciplines of Father's house. They don't know the blessings of Father's house. They've been raised out in the pig pen of life with dirt and smut and filth and a dog-eat-dog kind of a world and an existence. And here's the thing, is that the memories of this current generation are not positive at all. They don't have lofty memories. Their memories are memories of hurt and pain and fear and abuse and abandonment. And we find a man just like that in the 5th chapter of the book of Mark, verse 2 and 3, where it says, "And when he had come out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit, who had his dwellings among the tombs. And no one could bind him, not even with chains." They couldn't even restrain him, but he was living out in the graveyard among the tombs. But did you know that the original Greek word tombs, say tombs, the word tombs in the Greek means memories. Memories. He was dwelling among the memories. He was chained, as it were, by memories. May I tell you this? That sometimes memories themselves can be as powerful as the demons that once held you. And this man was the lunatic, the maniac of Gadara. And he has stripped off all of his clothing, which means that he is no longer subject to any covering of subjecting himself to anybody's authority. Sound familiar to you? You ain't my daddy. You don't tell me what to do. They won't subject themselves to a teacher, to the principal, to the police officer, to their mama, to their daddy. No covering, just out here wild, unrestrained. No memories of being raised in daddy's house because daddy wasn't around. How can you have memories of a daddy who was not there for you? Can I keep it real for you? And this same son, this same daughter, a daughter gets her sense of worth from her daddy. And if daddy does not give worth to her, to his daughter, she will put a price on her own body and sell it to men because she must have a worth. And it is a father who is to make his daughter feel like she is the apple of his eye, so she doesn't discount herself, put herself on sale and become cheap and tawdry and walk out into the world and allow herself, because she didn't have the love of a daddy, seeking it from a man, to be in some strong arms of somebody telling her that she was loved. That's a daddy's place. But what do you do when daddy is not home? What do you do when daddy never brought discipline in his son's life? When he wasn't there to discipline him and to say, all right, boy, that's enough. Don't talk to your mama like that. Sit down. When you need a daddy who has the authority to discipline because he's been there and he's doing what he ought to do to set an example. I'm talking about a real father. When you grow up in father's house. But what do you do when there is no memory of daddy ever being around? Or when he was just a fun visit every other weekend? And his contact was superficial. And he compensated with gifts and toys for what he did not do with money and time. And now there grows up an anger in a little boy's heart, who, as he grows older, becomes more and more distant from a father that he wished were there, particularly when he goes through challenging times of transition in his own life, and he is growing, making the transition from boyhood, trying to be a man, and now has to teach himself the ropes or learn it from the streets from somebody else who had no daddy. Games become an artificial family, providing love, intimacy, discipline, and a sense of self-worth to them, the same elements that you ought to learn in family. Family literally means father's house. And how can we say, I will arise and I'll go back to the family, when we've never been raised in the family? We've got a generations of orphans sitting under the same roof, but they are isolated into their own worlds by their own text messages and earphones going into their own ears, and not even having any real fellowship, but it's through artificial insemination, artificial intelligence. But there needs to be a real koinonia that happens around a dinner table, where individuals are able to dialogue one with another, and you're able to have somebody that you can dialogue with and see them and feel their embrace, and somebody who's there to pat you on the back when you've done a good job and say, hey, high-fiving somebody because you got 3 A's, 2 B's, and maybe a C, and keeping it real and say, you know what, you did the best you could. I'm so proud of you. I love you. I appreciate you. You keep it up. You keep it up. You're getting better and better and better and better. And they need somebody that they can remember who was there at every game that they did, at every recital that they did, every time that they played an instrument, and you were there, and you're sowing into their life, and they may not say anything to you, but they will remember always that you were there. And in the same way that they remember that you were there, they remember when you are not there. So what happens when you have somebody? How can you come to yourself and say, I will go back, and you never had a normal house? What do? When the circumstances of your life, because of the folks that are around you, are all living in mediocrity and below. And how are you supposed to excel and progress and get ahead when everybody in your family has set the bar so low? when the things that you're seeing every day in your life, the bar is so low, where you're supposed to get something to give you the wherewithal to be able to say, I'm not going to be like those folks that are around me. I'm not even going to be like my family. I'm not going to be like my relatives. What in the world can I do? I'm not going to sit here and allow my life to waste away into oblivion while I'm just complaining and watching myself deteriorate while other people in other communities are advancing. What about me? Don't just sit there. Do something. Don't take life lying down. Never let the power of your memories be stronger than the power of your vision. Your vision has the ability to pull you out of your lethargy, to pull you out of mediocrity and pull you into a place of destiny and success in your life. Otherwise, you'll get stuck in your past. Never let the power of what has happened to you in your past so paralyze you that you cannot pursue your destiny and your future. And let me just tell you this, that if you are anxious today, the only reason that you're anxious is because you're already living in your future. And if you're depressed today, the only reason that you're depressed is because you're still stuck in your past. And so a decision has to consciously be made that I'm going to move from where I am and I'm not going to let this thing hold me down. But every time that you get tempted to have a relapse and go back to negative behavior in your life, that thing is simply because of a memory. It is a memory that causes a relapse that says, come on, get high one more time. Come on, get drunk one more time. Come on, lay with me one more time. It's because of a memory. It is the power of memory that draws us back into a negative place. But that's why you have to have positive memories that are set in your life that will pull you into a place of productivity. May I remind you of the story of Joseph in the Old Testament, Jacob's son, favored of God, blessed of God. And after he had his own blood brothers to conspire against him because they didn't like him after he told them his dream. One of the greatest hurts and offenses that could ever come into your life is that people who are supposed to love you, that live with you, who ought to be celebrating you and proud of you and encouraging you and supporting of you, and they are conspiring to kill you. And the oldest boy, Reuben, talked them out of killing him, and so they said, why should we just kill him? We don't make anything off of him. If we kill him, let's sell him into slavery. And they sold their own blood brothers. What betrayal! When in the very house where you were raised with people that are supposed to love you and celebrate you and encourage and support you, and there they are conspiring against you, hoping that you'll never make it and actually digging traps for you. And they sold him down into slavery. He went into Egypt as a slave, and then he came up through the ranks because he served faithfully and without ever letting bitterness grip his heart. He did the right thing with his own heart and with his own life by saying, I'm going to do the right thing. And he got there and served faithfully in Potiphar's house. And then Potiphar's wife saw that he was a good-looking young man and wanted him to sleep with him. He said, no, I've got too much respect, number one, for God, and then I respect and honor your husband too much for me to do that. A man of integrity. But here again, right in the house of where he was serving with faithfulness, where he should have been celebrated, they were conspiring to get him in trouble, and it wound him up in prison. He goes from a pit that he was put in now into a prison, and he never got bitter. And let me tell you the secret of what he did. When he had a child in that land, he named his firstborn Manasseh. The name Manasseh means the Lord has caused me to forget. The Lord has caused me to forget. I forget all of the pain of what my own brothers tried to do against me. My own people that were supposed to love me and encourage me and support me. I forget the abuse that they did to me. I forget how they treated me and actually sold me and profited off of my life and put me in bondage while they were advanced. I choose to forget that. I choose to forget the woman that lied on me and testified falsely against me, that put me in jail. I choose to forget it. You can't forget the memories of your past unless you birth something in your future. You've got to create something. You've got to birth something in your future that is greater than the stuff that was behind you. So he birthed a child and named that joy that came in his life Manasseh. The Lord has caused me to forget. And his second child that he had was a little boy by the name of Ephraim. The name Ephraim means the Lord has caused me to prosper in the land of my affliction. But you'll never prosper in the land of your affliction until you learn to forget all of the drama and the injustices and all of the abuse and manipulation and molestation that happened to you. Birth something in your life that says, look at me now. That what you brought in my life trying to kill me only made me stronger. You prepared me to be who I am. You'll have to go back and thank them and say, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for my good. The stumbling block you put in my way actually built up my calf muscles and taught me how to get over obstacles that would come after me all of the days of my life. What the devil meant for evil against you, God will put his transcendent glory on it, turn it around for your good. You're able to step over it, and if you can get over it, you can get out of it. Jesus is able to deliver you. Don't ever forget that God will give you a greater memory. Your best days are ahead.
Thank you for watching Power for Living with Bishop Dale C. Bronner. Until next time, God bless you.